God Allah Yahweh Bashem Yahshai Bashem Kakodash. Double honors to the elders of the Apostle Great Most of the well. I am not a member, however, I've entered into their labors. Peace and mercy to the sincere brothers and sisters doing this, wherever you are, whatever your life may be. This is a very, I don't want to say, oh, there we go. I don't want to say quick, but we're going to do a cover of this 11-minute video. And I want you to pay attention on what is said, how they make these attempts to categorize people, and again, word association. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to title it. Maybe like a categorization by association. I don't know. We'll work on that. But I may have to fast forward. I don't know when they start, but we're going to let it play. Okay, and we'll get our commentary. So without further ado, let's go ahead and they're going to speak on the divide, of course, because if, Satan be divided, right? We'll get that. And the Lord is doing this, okay? They are all split up, though, the same way that they are trying to split Jacob, the things that they did, and that's another thing that I call is the Haman effect. The very gallows and noose that they build is the one that they are going to hang on, right? Haman, in the book of Esther. And I say that because they spent years, decades socially engineering Jacob, especially the southern kingdom, which is the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the darker, the darker hue, and not so much the northern kingdom. Northern kingdom followed, but they made sure to socially engineer us, to split us up and divide us so that, they can, obviously, the tactic of divide and conquer. Now look at them, split, cannot agree. And that is how you know that we are heading for a very interesting and prophetic time in Babylon. And then you also have this growing debt. And any time that the answer is to pay for something longer, right? 50-year mortgages, 15-year car loans. You just need a complete overhaul of an economy, and you know where that leads digitally, of course. All right, all roads lead to the MOTB, but that is another story. Let's go ahead and let it play, get our commentary. I may try to fast forward it to the part that we actually need, but there are some things that that we also need to hear. So let's go.
A controversial boat strike to growing fractures inside the House GOP. Lots to discuss tonight with Brooks and Capehart. That's New York Times columnist David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart of MS Now. Good evening, gentlemen. It's great to see you both.
Jeff, see you.
So Washington has been consumed this past week with a debate over a series of strikes that killed 2 survivors of an initial attack on a suspected Venezuelan drug boat back in September. And Jonathan, the administration says that strike and others like it are necessary to protect U.S. interests. When you look at all that exists in the public realm right now, does that rationale withstand scrutiny?
No, it doesn't. It would help if the president and the defense secretary, this administration, would show us the evidence. You keep saying that these people are drug runners. And you know who they are. So tell us. You keep saying that they are shipping these drugs, that's what's in those boats. Well, show us the evidence. But we don't have the evidence. And then the other thing is, those 2 people who were killed in that second strike, since then, there have been others, and there have been survivors. If this is such a war on drugs to protect the American people, why aren't those survivors in U.S. federal custody and not repatriated to their countries? There are so many questions here that go well beyond what we've been talking about this week, and that's not to diminish the importance of why we're talking about this.
And David, to that point, is the U.S., in your view, carrying out a counter-narcotics mission in the Caribbean, or is this a show of force mission, and does the administration itself seem clear on the difference?
Well, it's more the latter than the former, but, frankly, to be a little crude, if you remember in 2016, Donald Trump and Marco Rubio got in a fight in a presidential debate about who had bigger hands. This is the direct descendant of that, of who's the bigger man. Somebody's been watching too many Dirty Harry movies or Charles Bronson in Death Wish, where they blow away the bad guys. And this is a video image of we're blowing away the bad guys. The main source of the drugs comes over land through Mexico. If they cared about doing the drugs, they would focus on that. If they cared about doing the drugs, they would not be blowing up the evidence. They'd be interrogating the guys they caught. If they cared about doing the drugs, they would try to work with our allies, not alienate our allies.
Now, here's where the switch, I believe, is where the switch comes. You tell the truth in the beginning, because these are some pretty solid points, right? If you're that focused on protecting the public, right? Because it's always about quote unquote peace and safety, and that is how they, that is the vehicle, that is the Trojan horse to you losing any amount of autonomy, financially, socially, any type, any category. That is a way that you lose autonomy through peace and safety, right? Well, in the first living example that we have in our generation, if you're a millennial or Gen X, it is the Niner Uno, right? And what all the different policies that came with that. But let's get, for the sake of, because he's gonna start lying. They can never just fully be honest, all right? So, with that being said, I'm gonna read this. I had this pull up too. Okay, so categorial, right, to accuse before a judge to make an accusation, right, of extrajudicial accusation. Okay, and it is the accuser of our brethren. This is Revelation 12 and 10 here, which we'll just read it off the dribble. And I heard a lot of voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our power, and the power of his Hamashiach, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before Yahweh day and night. And they set these conditions and then point the finger at Jake. And you notice that especially in the media. And I didn't really understand, and the propaganda was working because it works right here in the States. So imagine when you go to other countries where they've never seen so-called black people, and then they put, or brown, or but we're all shades of brown. Okay, I'm just saying so-called black for lack of a better term. Okay, so just for brevity, for the sake of brevity. You go to these other countries who they've never seen, and they automatically look at you a certain way, and that is through the propaganda. And all the while, it is a projection. Everything that they put on of the children of Israel is what they do. All right, from cannibalism, they lead the league in all manner of violent crime, especially against children. Okay, and you see it with the so-called people over there in the Holy Land when they were, building this campaign, this dehumanization campaign against the Ishmaelites over there in the land, were in the land. They love to build that propaganda, that dehumanization, because as long as you can garner the support of the people, you can kind of make moves on how you need to make your moves in order to, steal, kill, and destroy. But as you can see, this is also about, right, Red Dragon, Satan, all right, and then showing right before what happens when Babylon is about to fall, right? And all of their enchantments and their lies are being uncovered, and some people are waking up to the actual truth, but others are just unveiling secular things that went on in history, right? With all of the three-letter agency, excuse me a second, I'm drinking a little water, I'm still getting over that illness. But all of the operations of these three-letter agencies and why we have a quote-unquote immigrant problem is because they never talk about what happens. Why are these immigrants coming over here in the first place? Well, had you not destroyed and usurped their democratically elected leaders, had you not done these sneaky, underhanded, and dirty things to cause their economy to crash, to cause everything to fail, they wouldn't be over here. If you just leave people alone, right? But, right, Habakkuk 2 and 5 tells you why they can't. The soul is not lifted up right, and they simply just can't. They gotta enlarge themselves as hell. And also, since he's about to start lying, let's go ahead and get Psalms 58 and 3. Look at that. So let's read it here. They're poison. Oh, hold on. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stopped at the ear. And if you've ever tried to point out actual facts to these people, they completely just plug their ear, they hear nothing, and they'll just continue to ramble on about a already disproven but heavily repeated narrative. They make a narrative and they run with it, and that narrative becomes the truth, right? That is also how propaganda works. Okay, you just continue to repeat a lie enough until it's true, and they'll just keep repeating a lie, no matter how many facts. You can bring out 13 facts to their one lie, and they will still walk away thinking that they won an argument, so to speak. Let's go ahead and continue.
And so this to me is just a TV show. And I think what appalls me most of all about it is what they're posting, both Trump and Hegseth, on social media. You look at the pictures of Abraham Lincoln at the end of the Civil War. You look at the pictures of Franklin Roosevelt at the end of World War II. The burden of sending human beings into battle and causing death and suffering on both sides was something they bore with incredible heaviness. And Hegseth treats it like it's a video game. And it's just like, it's morally offensive.
We also learned this week that the Pentagon inspector...
Hold on. Taking peace from the earth, right? That is them. Not only by policy, but by word and deed, right? That's why we're talking about propaganda in the beginning. Because that takes peace from the earth. If people have an idea about you, especially if that idea is born of dehumanization, then your treatment can be, or your mis or maltreatment can be justified easily. Okay, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and you are witnessing it everywhere. And that they should kill one another, and it was given unto him a great sword. And if you go to Genesis, 24 or 27, what does it tell you? What was Eve's blessing, right? And we get this every time, but I won't ever not get it. We just gonna have to keep doing it. We're gonna have to keep getting it and keep reading it. I don't care. Alright, Genesis 27, by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break out his yoke from off thy neck. And he hated Jacob, and because of the blessing wherein his father blessed him with, he said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob. And he's been trying to slay Jacob ever since, all the way up until now, where he is able to, the power was given unto him to wear out the saints, right? He's allowed to do that. The earth was given into the hand of the wicked. He was allowed in that little season to do what he does best, and that is be an outright degenerate in every sense of the word, in every fashion, in every facet that you can think of.
Inspector General found that Secretary Hegseth's use of an unsecure messaging app, Signal, during active operations put U.S. personnel at risk, and that Hegseth did not fully cooperate with investigators. Jonathan, what do you see as the takeaways here?
It's breathtaking. If this were a normal administration, one, Pete Hegseth would never be anywhere near the Pentagon. But let's say Pete Hegseth had gotten in and this had happened. That person would have been fired. There would have been multiple hearings on the Hill, not just of the defense secretary, but of all the other Defense Department officials who were on that signal chain to get to the bottom of this. And the idea that the secretary didn't participate in this investigation between Signalgate and video gaming off of the coast of Venezuela, they are stretching the bounds of decency, the bounds of legality, the bounds of our Constitution in ways where, I agree with David, this is offensive on so many levels. But we've got all the video of Hegseth talking about, the fog of war. I know I'm going back to Venezuela instead of Signalgate, but there is a rot at the Pentagon, and the President of the United States does not seem to care.
What about that? Administrations come and go, but the rules that govern secure communications are supposed to endure. What does it say that a cabinet secretary, the defense secretary, could disregard those rules with so little apparent consequence?
Yeah, I would love to know if they ever had a conversation after Jeff Goldberg's story came out, and where they said, should we just admit it, we screwed up?
Okay, so here it goes. Here's where, so they started, there was some truth in the beginning. It seemed like there was some accountability, some sense of morality all right, just to draw you in. But then, pay attention.
I think a normal human being would say, yeah, we screwed up. But then I remember Hegseth got off a plane or a helicopter, and instead of saying the obvious, which actually would have earned him a little credibility, given what the story he was stuck with, he went after Jeff, and then he didn't cooperate with this investigation. And when the investigation comes out, saying explicitly in black and white that he endangered U.S. troops, he said, oh, totally exonerated. And so there's just a history of not only a little lie, like they didn't bend the truth. They broke it, stepped on it, burned it, and buried it in the ground.
And maybe a little bit farther ahead. Just keep watching, keep paying attention. It's still good to just keep an eye on it.
And so I would love to know if they even have a consciousness. Maybe we should tell the truth that we messed up. Yeah.
You know, we spend a lot of time on this program looking at the political divide and the toxic discourse fueled by conspiracy theories and misinformation. And last night there was this admission that really caught our attention. Dan Bongino,
This is it.
who was once this prominent right-wing influencer who trafficked in conspiracy theories, he explained why he pushed those narratives, and we should explain to our audience, he's now the #2 official at the FBI, and he promoted, years ago, false claims about the January 6th pipe bomb case, even suggesting that it was an inside job. Here's what he said to Sean Hannity last night.
You put a post on X right after this happened, and you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job.
You know, listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear, and one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director, and we base investigations on facts.
Have you ever...
You see a very, very subtle switch, and the guy in the glasses is going to say something interesting as well. But you see the switch there. Now, they have to tell you the truth, but there's no rule about them not making you seem like you're crazy for believing it, okay? So, yeah, here we go. Keep watch that.
Heard a clearer admission of the incentives that are warping our political discourse. Bongino saying, yeah, I said all that stuff, but I was paid to say it.
This whole segment is breathtaking. That we're talking about. And I just want to say, it's great to have proof of life of Dan Bongino, that he's actually still in the #2 job after saying he was going to quit. The incentive structures are wildly perverse. So he was paid to spin conspiracy theories. Now he's being paid to be the #2 at the FBI. Why would any law enforcement agency out in the country, why would any American citizen trust anything that comes out of the FBI, between Director Kash Patel, who was part of all of this, to this guy? I mean, we're in a deep mess being run by a cadre of fools who shouldn't be in the jobs that they're in.
Absolutely. Now watch, here it goes. They said there was the pitch. Oh, I'm sorry, the interviewer did the pitch, okay? He promoted the idea, and then watch what he says here. And here comes the category. So you say something that makes sense, and then you think, yeah, absolutely, this dude's right?
Before I answer, could you tell me what you're paying me to do? Do you want the conspiracies or do you want the truth?
Truth. Nothing but the truth.
You know what? I mean, it illustrates how much of it is a circus, how much it is a performance. Well, you see, and I worked with Tucker Carlson for 9 years at the Weekly Standard. We helped co-found the magazine together. And I had a wonderful time with Tucker. But I watched him, and I watched other people who I've known who've gone on to those kinds of careers get captured by the audience. The audience, they feel the visceral rise of the audience when they do something edgy and crazy. And then once you give them that, the dose has to keep going up and up and up. And
there's the discredit. So let me stop. Let me let him finish. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They just captured by it, and they get dragged to wherever their audience wants them to go. And they become, in Tucker's case, I don't know Mr. Bongino, but he is a different human being than the one I knew. And I think it is this seductive process of populist sort of drug dealing, basically, intellectual drug dealing.
What's to be done about it? I mean, the suspect in the January 6th pipe bomber case reportedly said that he believed the conspiracy and the false claims that Trump didn't win the election. There are clear consequences to this misinformation and these conspiracy theories.
Are there? We've just seen more than 1,000 people who participated in the riot of the Capitol on January 6th were held accountable in courts of law, only to be pardoned by the President of the United States. So at this point, great, you found the bomber. Should we start the countdown clock on when that person gets pardoned?
David?
I just think there should be more shame for conspiracy thinking.
Boom, here we go. So there has been, and we're not even going to use that, the 1/6 thing. We're not even going to use that. We can use many other things that have been proven, or should I say, disproven, and all they have to do is slap the C theory stamp on it and label it. And as you can see, he pitched it. So what do you think we should do? Right? What should be the consequences for those? And those consequences are for the people, because everybody on TV are paid actors.
If you think January 6th was an inside job, if you think 9/11 was an inside job, you are spreading the kind of acidic disinformation that destroys all our institutions. And just to ride my hobby horse for a little bit, if you think the FBI and Joe Biden's Justice Department was hiding some massive conspiracy about Jeffrey Epstein, you are defaming the men and women of the FBI and the DOJ.
Let's get the definition of defamation. Because it has to be a lie. The action of damaging the good reputation of someone, slander or libel. Alright, she sued him for defamation. Okay, so what is slander? Character assassination. A public false statement that is damaging to a person's reputation. A written defamation. The malicious and unjust harming of a person's good reputation. But with everything coming out, you see these agencies have destroyed their own reputation because they continuously lie on top of lie on top of lie on top of lie, and then they do these things here where they present information, and then you think that they're going to admit something. You think that they're on the side of truth and logic, and then it's all scripted, all so that they can build a case or put people in a category. So if you think this and if you think that, then you are a seat theorist. Right? You are domestic, terrorist. Very slick, and if you don't pay attention, you can just be watching things just to watch them. But anytime you see stuff like this, you better watch and you better pay attention. And look how slick that devil is, boy. If there's one thing they gonna do, that man.
Jay. And it's an attempt at dehumanization. And people spin these conspiracy theories, and so I'm just questions are being asked. It's all dishonorable inference, but it has clear corrosive effects on democracy.
Does it? What do you mean? There are clear corrosive effects. So the idea is not that democracy is clear corrosive effects on the narrative. Okay, that's what he meant to say. But let's get dishonorable inference. What is that? Dang it, not information. The term dishonorable inference is not a standard English idiom, I know that. Just a formal legal term, but rather descriptive phrase combining two distinct words. Its meaning can be understood by breaking down its components. Dishonorable, right, meaning lacking honor. And what I tell you about projection, what did I say about projection in the beginning of this? Alright, lacking honor, integrity, or character. Shameful, disgraceful, or morally unacceptable. Inference, a conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning. So if you use evidence and reasoning to come to a conclusion that is unfavorable to the narrative, then you are guilty of dishonorable inference. And they are going to try and highlight the punishment that should be for people who are like this.
That if we can't trust the institutions of our government, then we do not have a democracy. And
Well, I guess we don't then, do we?
conspiracy thinking is a kind of acidic kind of mental disease that undermines that.
Indeed. David Brooks, Jonathan Capehart. My thanks to you both.
Thanks,
You.
Jeff.
Very, very slick. You must pay attention. When you see a bald face with a tie on TV, and it doesn't matter what color he is, whether he's pink or whether he's a shade of brown, you better believe there's an ulterior motive at hand. So with that being said, I pray that this was edifying, and I pray that you are able to kind of use your scruples and use your eye salve to see these things, right? Given the spirit of Yahweh Shemashah, you're able to see and decipher, to see through these things, right? So on to the next song.